Hello, hola, buenas tardes a todos. It's the Chancleta Generation Podcast.
¿Cómo has estado? Gusto verte.
Muy bien.
Otra vez que no te he visto.
Otra vez, we got that green memo again.
Yes.
All right, guys. So welcome back to part 2 of our menopause panel.
Yes.
We had such a great time in part 1. Such an interesting conversation with these awesome Latinas. So if you landed here and you have not listened to part 1, please go back and listen to it. There's a lot of wisdom over there. And then come back and continue listening. So you ready, Ceci?
Yes, we are.
Let's go.
So what are some of the myths or things that you have heard that we know are total that is not true? Do you have any thoughts or examples of I don't know, misconceptions is the word, but I would call them myths a little bit.
I remember being 15 in Mexico City, and one of my older friends would use menopausica as an insult. And
she would, if it were hysterical?
Yeah, and she would say, vieja perimenopausica, or vieja menopausica, and that just stuck to my mind, and I thought, why would that be an insult? And I was 15, but thinking today about that, it's just it doesn't make sense. And if you don't know what is menopause or what is being menopausica, then you may be offended because you don't know. You are offended by the word, but you really
menopause is not the sexiest word either. It's a terrible word.
It's just a word.
It's like pause. It's got the word pause in it. What are you pausing? Pausing is not good. You keep going.
But we're pausing. What we're pausing is the
we need to rebrand this.
Availability to reproduce. But remember, if you're perimenopausica, you can still reproduce, so be careful. So not until you have really... Karina, be careful.
No, you know.
Te sales con el golazo del...
No. Tranquilas, respiren. No, something that this makes me think about is if you realize, and I'm sorry to bring this again, but I honestly feel that the attack on women starts ever since you are little. When you start having your period and then you have a reaction or you get angry or you get emotional. Oh, are you in your period right now? Are you in your period right now? It has been used women cannot be presidents because they have their period and they are too emotional when
they're hormonal.
They are hormonal. So, at this age, I have heard say maybe she is menopausical because, she is angry, that angry woman, that emotional woman, that sensitive woman. That is just being human, right? So it's like attacking our processes for us to feel ashamed or for us to hide, our emotions, our body development, who we are as person. And the worst of the worst is because since we are not informed, even us as women, we attack other women. Instead of understand that if somebody's angry or somebody's crying is because they are angry and they are crying and because they are human and because they are entitled to their own feelings. So all of these pieces, I think that is not only learning about menopause, but also unlearning all that misinformation and that all the idiosyncrasies that are part of our culture, right? That put women down. In some cultures, in Guatemalan and Mexican culture, to call somebody a woman, right? You could get killed if a man is called a woman.
Yeah.
That person could get killed. The person that is insulting, quote unquote, the other person that can kill because it's the worst insult that somebody can give, that a person can give a man. Of being a woman. Look at the consequences of minimizing and putting us as all of who we are as something so low that cannot even be talked about.
Yeah, but I think that this is why there's so much shame around it, right? Because it's like, this is an biological process that we cannot stop, or like it's just gonna happen. Like it is part of our lives, right? But society or whatever has made it seem like it's something that just makes you even less than. Like you were already, like women were already like less than. It makes you even less than. Like it's like now you become un cero a la izquierda. Like now you're just this old menopause little woman that is just like whatever. And it's just like, no, we need to change that. We need to change that narrative, and we need to also own this. It's like, yeah, I'm going through menopause, so what?
That's the beauty and the opportunity of this program, precisely. Making everybody aware that this is a natural process, that it's been a gift to be able to reproduce if you choose to, but it's also a gift to be able to stop that menstrual period that becomes, a pain. And then it's a good thing to keep on going, because if you're fertile or not won't define who you are as a woman. So it's our responsibility to bring honor to these natural processes. Having periods, thank you to these periods, because if our mothers didn't have periods, we wouldn't be here. If they were infertile, just like everybody else's mom, if they were infertile and if they didn't have periods, they wouldn't be here. So, and now that after, the purpose for those periods is done, okay, it's gone. It's another part of being a human. It's a natural process, and we have to honor it. And through these programs, we can do that,
Yeah, but in a way, like, for example, if you're in the middle of a meeting and you have a hot flash, it's embarrassing. Sometimes you're like, okay, I'm having
a hot flash. That's it.
Yeah, but no, I'm saying, but like usually it is embarrassing. Like to other women, like they become red and then they start sweating and blah blah, and it should be okay to just be at this meeting and say, "Excuse me, I'm just having a hot flash. I'm just gonna have some water and then I'll keep going." It should be okay to say that, but it usually isn't.
We should start promoting that. Just like when you have a headache. I'm sorry, I have a headache. I need to drink water.
But the thing is, like, if women go through like really bad PMS, then like their workplaces aren't very understanding of it. They're like, oh, what do you mean? You just need to dust it off and just keep...
Casita, excuse me, thank you very much.
I was gonna say, I hear you talk about this, and Karina, you mentioned something like, I also want to acknowledge that not everyone who has a menstruation or a menopause identifies as women.
Yep.
So if it's complicated for us, I cannot imagine how complicated it is for trans folk, people who are gender non-conforming, who go through physiologically to some of this, even though many of them are in many other transition and other support. They should be able to access it. Not in many places they can't, but like, these are things that happen to menstruating bodies, and I think that is also that is just, I think, as you were talking, Dr. Paty, about like, it's just a different chapter in what it means to be a human. The same day that we go from being a child into an adolescent into an adult, you continue to be an equally joyful and whole adult. This is just another stage of life. And I think also we talked about other systems, but ageism, right? Like, and Clem, you and I had a conversation about the lengths at what women are willing to go to fight aging, or how do we, become young? How do we grow young? But like, that is a concern, like, and also this concern of like performing in a world that there is, if I remember correctly, there was a study that said that sometimes for some women or some menstruating people, when they have periods or cramps, they might be like similar to having a small heart attack. Like that, some pain can be very, very hard.
Yeah.
And like, you could you do work when all you want to do, like if you were having a heart attack?
And this is why, it's really hard for women to advance, because if they have debilitating PMS or something, and then they're like, well, you can't work just like men do. But it's like, I'm sorry, I actually create life. Like, I carry a human being inside of me. I can do that. And like, there's different biological process that you go through, that I go through, and that should be okay, but like, there's no understanding in the workplace for the biological processes that women go through. And it's like, if you're in the middle of a meeting and you're having a hot flash and you really want to just go to the bathroom and splash some water on your face, you should be able to without it being detrimental to your job or to the way that people see you. But it is. At the end of the day, unfortunately, it still is. This is why we carry all this shame. We don't talk about it, because the moment that many women feel like the moment that they share with somebody that they're going through menopause, they're like, oh, so you're gonna start becoming unstable, or like, what are you gonna, you know what I mean? It's like there's all this, like, people start thinking like, oh, okay, so what's gonna happen then? Am I gonna have to like give you some special treatment, or are you gonna start like going loopy?
Let me educate you.
Let me
educate you, and I will share with you. I will share with you this information that will allow you to understand what I'm going through. And I think we women should empower other women and just support other women and just talk about it. I'm having a hot flash, just like Karina said. Maybe this. Oh no, it was just a hot flash, but. I have had them in front of principals, and it's just like, oh, okay, it's a hot flash. So just keep on going and nothing else.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
Something that you mentioned, Clem, at the beginning was that I am assuming that for the four of us in this conversation, it will be easier to go to any hospital because we speak English. How would it be the experience of immigrant women that have never been educated about it, like it's still a taboo, that they are being ostracized because of, for being women, and they go to hospitals where, first of all, there is no meaningful language access. Second of all, there is not the slightest clue about cultural humility, and they can care less about who the person is and what her beliefs are and how she sees herself. So they provide medical service that is totally inappropriate for that woman, because the truth of the matter is that besides being something biological and physical, is something very emotional, to the point of being without exaggerating, spiritual. How you see yourself, in the whole schemes of everything that surrounds you. So if we as Latinas that speak English have feel ourselves that we are not getting the care that we really need, can you imagine those with medical insurance, those that go to places because they think that they are dying, right? Like the perimenopause symptoms are absolutely horrendous, because there are those cases as well. Or simply, like we see it with prenatal care, the lack of the meaningful prenatal care, to immigrant women, to women in poverty, to women that don't have a medical insurance, or don't read and write, or don't have digital literacy. So all of those pieces are very important to talk about. And, as women that might know how to navigate the medical system all around, to advocate for those women, that for them being able to say, I don't have a period anymore, to be able to own who they are, and in one way or the other feel empowered to advocate for themselves.
Exactly. But that's the thing, when there is, it's like I said at the beginning, it's not only our right, but also our responsibility to speak up about this and make it normalize it. It's our job. Nobody else is gonna do it for us. It's our job to normalize it and say, yeah, like Dr. Paty just said, let me tell you what this is gonna entail, me going through menopause. or, or also tell your friends. Like when I started going through the perimenopause, I told all my friends, and I said, check with your mom and ask them, when they started going through menopause, so you're prepared, because I didn't know. And then my mom was like, oh yeah, I was your age. I'm like, this could have been helpful information. And so it's like, it's important to communicate and let people know, and also just make it normal. Talk about it just like anything else. I got a cold the other day or whatever. It's just like, it should be normal. It shouldn't be something that's that makes you feel ashamed about it.
Yeah.
And also we can change our language. I'm perimenopause, I'm not menopausing. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm in the transition, so I'm around there, perimenopause. So we can start educating people and just sharing, Yeah, it may entail changes in mood and maybe I'll be intolerant a little, but this is part of a normal process, and your mom went through it, and your wife is going through it, and your daughters, if you have any, will go through it. So it's normal. And the more we talk about it, the more we said this is what is happening to everybody. And Karina just mentioned something that is very important. We are privileged. We have the language, and we have, gone above and beyond many barriers. But what about those who have language and literacy and all those barriers? Well, what they have, the resources that they go to is, again, healthy eating, lots of water, vitamins, exercise, and in the last resort, try to find a doctor that can understand what they are going through if they need to. But the majority will try to go through it without any assistance. And that's the truth. That's the truth for most of the people that I know in Mexico, and a lot of people that we know here, that belong to our community, women that we accompany.
Yeah, because it's important that it's like, okay, there's a lot of advances in medicine, and you don't have to just like go through with it, especially if it's debilitating. There's a lot of options that you have now. So it's important that women are like, okay, well, I'm going through a hot flash. Maybe it's time to go and check with my doctor and see what this means to me, or just to have a conversation. Like, that's what they're there for. And to learn more about like what's happening with your body. Like, the internet is not gonna be the best place for you to find out. It's gonna be your doctor. The doctor is gonna know more.
I was gonna say, it's also important to normalize that women should go, like, to have your annual checkup with your gynecologist, right? Like this, if you're being consistent with your kind of general, like, physical, and that's kind of preventive care, you do your physical, and then you do your annual, then most of the time one of them will be able to catch it and provide guidance, pathways. But like, it's, I think, the ones, because we don't have that access to healthcare in that sense, that is kind of like holistic, and that it catches us by surprise, and many of us will go through it without even going to the doctor, because this is not part of our practice. So even like normalizing that going to the doctor to get your annual exam, gynecological annual exam, is an important thing through your whole, even after menopause. That you should continue going.
Ceci, you just mentioned something that we have been working on a constant and regular basis, isn't it, Karina? We are really reminding everybody the importance of the annual visit, particularly when you are not sick. So a doctor can have, your very basic line and identify if something is not going well. But, we will emphasize that it's not only the annual physical exam with the primary care doctor, but also if you're a woman, if you can go and try to have an annual visit with the gynecologist. That is a lot harder, because the availability of gynecologists for people without insurance or under insurance, it's a huge challenge because of the lack of doctors. But we will try. We will try.
Yeah, I mean, every time I try to make an appointment with a gynecologist, they give me an appointment like 3 months out, at least 3 months out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but you mentioned something that was really we just grazed over it. Your wife going through it, like men, like how is it that men react to their wives going through menopause as well? Anybody have any experiences about that?
I'm gonna be biased because my husband is a doctor, so he is not a regular. So it's different. But I was watching a documentary about sanitary pads in India. An individual creating a factory for sanitary pads because girls don't go to school because they don't have sanitary pads. So, but they were asking males about periods, and they were like the ends of a sentence period, or like the end of a class period, or like, come on, man, you know what kind of period they are talking about. But it's about us speaking about this and making it normal. So now I have two more topics to talk about, menstrual periods and menopause. And I'm going to make my videos in Spanish very short and sweet for our community, and let men know this is normal. If you're here, it's because your mom had a period, and if you have kids, it's because your wife has a period. And if your wife is having changes in her period regularly, probably she's perimenopause. That's
I mean, I also think that this subject was not touched upon in my school, when biology class, and I think like this is such an important topic. Both men and women should know biologically what happens to their bodies, and this happens to it with men too. Like, men get older and they have their own issues and challenges as well. But it's also a very taboo thing, and men don't talk about it. Nobody talks about nobody talks about their biological functions as they get older. And I think it's so important that a biology class teaches you that, because you need to know, and not everybody's parents talks about that. And so I think like in the education system, I also, men should know about women's biological systems. So when, because I remember back in the day, it was like, oh, well, I didn't know that you could get pregnant doing this. I'm like, men should know how women get pregnant. And so also men should know a lot about periods, and men should know a lot about menopause. And women in turn should know a lot about men's biological functions, because like we're humans. We should know about what's going on with our bodies. But I don't think that there's enough education out there about that. I mean, if the boys didn't even know what periods were, then
it's very patriarchal society. India, it's even more patriarchal than Latin American countries. Correct. We are, if you are in a city or in a big village in our countries, you are better than in some areas. But if you go to, secluded little villages like in Chiapas or in Guatemala or in Oaxaca, then that's where we need to help women.
I mean, I've even seen, and I don't know exactly where, but I've even seen like some, indigenous tribes that the women have to go and live off on an off house while they have their periods. And it's like, there's all these myths around it, or like they're not supposed to touch, women that are on their periods because it's blah, blah. It's like, no, let's stop. Like, it creates and it perpetuates a sense of shame because you're like tainted, or you're different.
You are not. Like, what you are is fertile, and thanks to that fertility, we are here.
Yeah.
Or the idea that a woman is dirty. And I think that it depends. I don't think that it's related to the culture. I think that it depends on the family, the community, and the belief. Because the things that I have heard as a counseling psychologist, I will really question, the machismo in Latin America being at the top of the worst in the world. and I have lived in the Middle East for 3 years. So I don't think that is related one with the other. I just think that it depends on the community and in the family where you come from, and that's where we want to go. Like younger women, maybe it will be a little bit more difficult with women of our generation, but younger women, you know, the millennials and now the Gen Zs that are coming with these new ideas. Just by the fact, like, you know, the women are speaking out. Like, I'm used here in the United States to do Take Back the Night and talk about gender-based violence and, you know, going in the streets and protest. But that is something that is new in our countries. Like you can go and protest about, you know, political rights and the war and injustices, but about women's rights and feminicidios, por favor, in inglés.
Femicides.
It's absolutely something just new. At least in Guatemala, Ceci,
in Guatemala, yes, but like I think it's changed. Like Mexico just legalized abortion, like Argentina did so too. So I think that has changed in the last decade, 2 decades. There is a lot more, or like awareness of what is that gender violence. I think there's more awareness of members of the LGBTQ community. That is a generational thing, and Guatemala continues to be quite conservative. It's a very religious country, and like,
but yeah, no, but you know, the feminicides haven't stopped. They have increased, even though there is awareness. Even though there is awareness,
but
the
violence
number of people that have been murdered, people identify as women. Or femmes, you know, the level of crimes against them have not decreased, even though, as you say, and you are totally correct, it's being spoken more often, social media, blah, 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 but they haven't decreased whatsoever.
But those numbers are also high in other countries like Norway or like the Scandinavian countries that have very high standards. So it's like, I think that's that systemic part, that patriarchy, how we see that hierarchy between genders, or we also understand the lived experience of someone who is a woman or identifies as femme as something that can be disposed of, or that carries shame, or that can be secluded, or that has to be excluded through. Imagine if you have to miss a school and you have a period that is 3 days, well, okay. But if you have a period that is 1 week and it happens to you every 3, like, imagine missing a school. What is it what that's doing to your educational progress? Over that starts at 12th grade.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know?
So women, you know, we need to take back our respect. We are amazing because we create life, and that does not mean biologically that we're supposed to be less than. It actually makes us very special, and I think that we should be respected just like any other human being. And our biological processes should just be respected as any other as well. And also, so I think, you know, out there, you guys that are listening, talk about it with your friends, with your mom, with other women in your life, you know,
with your doctor,
talk about it too. And there's no shame. It's just like anything else. It's just like any other process that anybody else goes through. And don't let anybody make you feel ashamed for what you go through in your terms of your biological processes. Don't let anyone make you feel ashamed.
Amen.
Well said.
Muy bien.
Thank you so much, guys. Please, Karina, Dr. Paty, you guys run an amazing organization. Please let us know a little bit about how they can contact you if they have any questions for you.
Cari.
Muy bien. Well, we are a very unique organization in Louisville, Kentucky. We are Latinx-led, feminist-led, dirigida por mujeres latinas. Yes or yes. So we take feminism really seriously. The way that we work, the way that we relate with each other, the language that we use for us is very intentional. And, usually when people ask us, oh, so what does La Casita do? We tell them, you name it, we do it. And if we don't do it, we make it up. And that, my friends, is what women do. Latina women, anyways. We are not waiting. We are not waiting for the funding. We are not waiting to see if it's my job or it's in my job description. We do it. That's it. So if people want to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, in LinkedIn, or we have a channel on YouTube where you're going to see the amazing, fantásticos consejos de Doctora Paty. So please follow her. She is the guru of health and health prevention. So follow her. If you follow us on Facebook, you're also going to see our other programming that is very important. We are our job is, our mission is to dismantle systemic oppression. Whatever it means, all the patriarchies, all the hierarchies, all the supremacies, all of that. So that's our mission, and to be able to provide a space where people is treated with dignity, with cafecito, arroz y frijoles, and with services that make sense to us.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I feel like Ceci and I, we've talked about so many different topics, and always the conclusion, if we find obstacles or there's things that we see that are wrong, it really starts with us, right? We are the ones that need to take this into our own hands, and so you guys taking this into your own hands and dismantling oppression, that's what we need. We need more people like you guys. So thank you so much for being with us today and imparting so much wisdom and talking about something that usually women are not really comfortable talking about. So thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias. This was amazing.
Thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity.
Gracias por invitarnos, y niñas, de verdad, en serio, if you put Ceci, Doctora Paty, and myself, we can together in one room, and I now realize, Clemencia, you too, we can speak about any topic for days and days to come. So very grateful to be with you this afternoon.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. To get in touch with us, we are on the Instagrams at Chancleta Generation, and then on the X at Chancleta Gen, and then we're on TikTok, Chancleta Generation. Follow us, text us, let us know what's going on with you. If you like it, DM us. If you don't like it, DM us. And
leave a review.
Yes, leave us a review. And thank you so much for the listeners that have been DMing us about the topics that they want us to be covered. So please tell us more. We like more topics. Tell us more. Thanks everyone. And we'll see you next week.
Nos vemos, amores.